Let's start the demo by looking at the OpenShift Kubernetes cluster. We see only one pod running there. It's a database. So it's virtually empty at this point. Similarly, let's look at the deployments, and we see that there's only one database deployment. Now let's shift over to an experimental GUI for the Kubernetes plugin of the ONAP project, and we will start by creating a project. Let's call the project 5G Core, and the description is it's for 5G Core deployment. Next, we are going to add a cluster provider to this project, and a cluster provider is a class. So it can be OpenShift, it could be Google, Amazon, Microsoft. In this case, it's OpenShift. Now let's add an actual cluster to that cluster provider, and let's call it MTL. And we are going to import a Kubernetes settings file so the cluster gets registered properly with ONAP. And we added a label called MTL as well. Now let's create a composite app. A composite app is nothing but an app that further constitutes of multiple applications. In this case, we are going to create an NGC app, and in our case it's a one-to-one relationship. The composite app only has one application underneath, which is basically the 5G core. So we are going to add the 5G core application. So we have successfully done that. Now let's add a generic placement intent that applies to the entire composite app. This is generic placement intent for the next-gen core. And for this, now we can add intents for specific applications within the composite application. Like I said, for us it's a one-to-one relationship. So this is going to specify the actual intent for the next-gen core. So here we are linking the intent to the label that we had provided to the OpenShift cluster. And now we are going to actually deploy the 5G core. So we are going to deploy the NGC, and the description is NGC App. We are going to add the intent. So we had created the intent previously. Now we can actually associate that intent with the application. So let's go ahead and proceed. And at this point, our 5G core should be deployed. We are going to do a little bit of a time lapse. Normally it takes several minutes for the pods to come up. But now you see that all the 5G core pods, over 30 of them, have come up. Now we are going to go to ABOT, a G-Node-B and UE emulator from a company called Rebaca. And we are going to run two tests. First, we are going to run a connection request test that goes over the N2 interface to the AMF, and that one passed successfully. Now we are going to run a UE authentication test. So let's go ahead and run that. And now you see that the test execution has started. And this test has also executed successfully. The execution has completed. The first test, 12 tests passed, none of them failed for the connection request test. And for the second one, the UE authentication flow, 16 tests passed.